Looks like you've been missing a lot of work lately.
I wouldn't say I've been missing it, Bob.
What would you say you do here?
God damn it. Bob, we love playing here tonight. My brother's ready.
It helps if you think of it as a game, Bob. Every game has a winner and a loser.
You must possess strength to inflict pain, Bob.
Yo, what is up? Welcome to episode 37 of the Two Bobs cast. We are the Two Bobs. We'll go through the letters A to Z, pick out bands, go over their discography, and whatever else we can dig up from these guys. I am once again Heard, and I am once again here with the man, Mr. H. What's up, Mr. H?
What is up? We'll be dishing the dirt today.
Yeah, look out.
I don't know about that, but
look out, Irishman. We're
watch out, Dublin. Don't bomb me, please.
Yeah, well, be careful, you know.
Yeah,
well,
right.
they make peace. Make peace, not war.
Make peace, not war. Eat potatoes.
That's the message that I received this week from the great rock hall band U2, which we will be covering today.
U2. I know we're on letter
U2?
X, but we're covering U2 because we skipped them, and we don't really have much for X. So you got a special X episode for the next time through the alphabet, but this time we're just going to do U2 for X.
We'll do U2, huge band. Not one I think that either of us are really into a lot, but you know, again, we always kind of look at Spotify to kind of get us like a baseline of how big these bands are. 20 million listeners on Spotify every month, which to me is, I mean, it just shows like how
they haven't put out new material in 8 years, and they still have 20 million listeners a month, which is crazy. So
shows the impact these guys have had on the music community for sure. Again, just never really was my thing, but I mean, they kind of set the stage for a lot of like genres of band, like a Coldplay type thing. Like those type of bands are huge. Like they all kind of started from this style of music, just real simple riffs and, you know, real simple, you know, song structures, but yet really easily digestible, I think, for people. They made their way on the radio. And again, every time they do tours, I feel like they sell the heck out of them. And
stadiums.
It
blows my mind.
Biggest places in the world. And
yeah,
they just got done doing their residency at the Sphere in Vegas. So I've seen kind of some videos and stuff of that. So really, really cool. I'm glad these guys are still doing it. But yeah, we'll get into all things U2. So partner, what do you got about U2?
U2, Irish rock band formed in Dublin, Ireland in 1976. They've been around for almost 50 years. It's crazy. It mainly consists of, now there was some lineup changes early on, but by the time their first album came out, they had their lineup set, and it's been the same for almost 50 years, for 45 years now, which is insane and incredible and respectable all at the same time. Originally rooted in like post-punk, they eventually found their sound, but it's recognizable pretty much by everyone today. I mean, I wouldn't say so much their last few albums. It kind of sounds like a lot of other stuff, but up until then, you know, you hear a U2 song, even if you didn't know the song, you pretty much knew it was U2. Mm-hmm. They eventually evolved into kind of chiming effects, driven guitars, and Bono's expressive vocals, backed by kind of a steady and very similar song to song rhythms from the bass and drums. You know, especially early on here. There's a lot of their stuff it's pretty simple and really effective. I mean, they definitely gained popularity rather quickly. I tend to think of them early on as kind of new wave pop, like a new wave pop band mixed with punk. It's kind
Yeah.
of, yeah, like a, early 80s punk and like a band like Aha or something, like a new wave punk band like from the or new wave pop band from the early 80s, kind of mixed and woven together in there. Like, I don't know, maybe a little too simplistic, but they have a pretty simple sound. So this is a band that is, full transparency, not my thing. Um, I have referred to them in the past and will continue to refer to them as one of the most overrated bands of all time, in my opinion. Because what they did for a long time is kind of put out the same thing over and over and over again. And they wrote some great songs. I'm not going to deny them that, but it's just their popularity. Like, I could never really understand what about them was so grabbing, that really drew people in. I don't know if it was just sometimes, simple's better, I don't know, but it just kind of wasn't my thing. And I recognize that. Like, I know, especially growing up in the 80s, in my teenage years, I know I was in a minority. Like, everybody loved U2. Everybody did.
Yeah.
And I was one of the people that didn't. I was like, just these guys, they just don't do anything for me. It's kind of boring and it's kind of repetitive and they don't really do anything that really grabs my attention. But going through it, it was a pretty enjoyable experience. Now, some of that's a little skewed because we just went through the Who, and I've probably heard at least 70% of U2's catalog at some point in my life. And because they're so popular, like, you couldn't really get away from them. And I would give them a chance here and there and try, like, maybe there's something different now. Nope, it's still kind of the same thing. So
Mhm.
with the Who, there were songs that I liked, but I never really went through their catalog and listened to whole albums, like, ever. So I don't
Right.
know anybody that liked them. So it was more enjoyable, kind of sort of based on that, but it was more enjoyable than I thought it would be. So anyhow, we'll get right into it. Their first album came out in 1980 on January 20th in 1980, 12 songs, called Boy. This is produced by Steve Lillywhite. We've heard of him before. He did stuff for Peter Gabriel, Psychedelic Furs, which kind of leads you to believe what this band is going to sound like. He kind of created the gated reverb drum sound kind of by accident, along with Peter Gabriel, that became the hallmark of Phil Collins' career. So everybody knows the In the Air Tonight drum fill, right? That's the gated reverb drum sound that was kind of created by these guys that produced this album along with Peter Gabriel. So a lot of their stuff, it sounds great. It's really well put together, especially this early stuff here. I Will Follow is the first song, and it's kind of a classic that you still hear today. It's a song that I do like by them on this album. This is kind of an uneven sounding album, but more because of the ranging types of songs, not because of the production, but just more the range of songs. In some ways, it doesn't even sound like U2, but in other ways, it does. They definitely didn't have an overall polished sound quite their own yet at this point on this first album. Lillywhite was kind of famous for having them use different sounds on this album, like scraped bicycle spokes, hitting milk bottles to kind of create different sounds. Some drums were recorded in a stairwell, adding to the experimental sound and feel on the album. This earlier stuff, I do rather like sometimes. It's got a cool feel to it. It puts you in a type of mood. I can't really describe it, but maybe that was the draw for them that got them so many fans, is like it definitely gets you in a particular kind of mood listening to their stuff. So my favorites on this first album are I Will Follow, as I already mentioned, Into the Heart, and Out of Control. I liked those songs. Skippers, I didn't like A Day Without Me. Another Time, Another Place. I don't really like the vocals on the first half, and then there's a weird surf rock guitar layered in the second half that didn't work for me. The last track they could have just left off. I have this as a B, though, for them. I don't think I have any of these albums. You know what? I'm just going to save that. It's not bad. It's not too bad. It's it's more memorable than I remember, if that makes sense. This album, like I'm listening to it, I'm like, okay, I remember this. I remember this. Where I didn't think I was really going to remember any songs on this album. I don't have this album. Um, it sounds familiar even without a lot of listens and a long time in between the listens. It's mellow and sort of starts to establish some of their sound while also being experimental and sometimes a bit boring. I'm going to be honest. It wasn't great all the way through. It definitely is completely different for this time period. I'll give them that too. They definitely stood out in 1980 as a band like nobody sounded like this back then. So I have this as a B. I have this as number 5 on our list. We are doing 13 albums. We're leaving off Rattle and Hum because it's mostly a live album. There are some songs on there we're going to touch on, but we're not going to rate that one. So I have this as number 5 out of 13. What did you think of Boy?
Boy.
Hope he called me Roy.
Right. This is okay.
Mhm.
It was kind of hard for me to get engaged for this album.
Okay.
It's like you said,
But
it
you're
sounds
married.
good. I know. I am. I'm a married
You
man.
you didn't have to get engaged to the album, dude. You just have to
Yeah.
listen to it.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say. So, it's okay. Like I think you kind of nailed it when you said kind of like post-punky ish. It's very, I don't know, like I'm sure they had a direction, but to me, it just all kind of drones. I'm not a huge fan of this style of music. It just, you could tell they're kind of in their infancy, but I guess it does sound like they're, I guess whoever their influences are, like Elvis Costello, those type of
Yes.
those bands with a
Mhm.
mix of more of a punkier type thing. So it sounds fine. Like you said, the production is good. I just listening to it, like not a whole lot stood out to me. Like I didn't want to turn it off. Like there wasn't a lot of skipping or like, man, I just can't wait to get to the next one. It sounded good. It's just there's not a lot of songs that really stuck out to me. I just think it's the style of music I like. I think they become better songwriters later, actual songwriters, to where it's something interesting. Like I care about what he's talking about. The riffs for the edge get better. Um, but this is okay. You mentioned, I think, the stronger ones I will follow for sure. Out of Control for sure. I also liked Into the Heart, and I liked The Ocean, were the ones that kind of stuck out to me. Everything else, not really any skippers. Day Without Me was okay. I think that was their other quote unquote single off this album.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I didn't care for that one either, but that was actually the first single released off of this
okay,
album. Yep.
okay.
And then I Will Follow was after that.
So yeah, no, again, nothing bad to say. I guess a lot of people really like this album. Obviously, it kind of set the pace for them. But for me, these first and kind of spoil into the next one. These first two are very similar to me, and just it's not my thing. It gets a little better than that after that for me. So Boy, I liked it a little less than you. I had it number 7, like right in the middle, and I had it
Okay.
a C plus.
All right.
Probably would never go back to it, but it's good enough. It's a good, it's not one of the better debut albums that I've heard in my life, but at least it put them on the map, and they really didn't go that far off. They just tweaked it a little bit
Yeah.
here and there,
Yeah. It's a
and
good launching point for
yeah,
them. Like it's not,
100%.
not like a Guns N' Roses Appetite for Destruction or
Yes.
something where it just blows your doors off right away, but definitely a good launching point for
Yeah.
them.
It was
Good
like a
building block.
really good starting spot for them
Mhm.
because, again, like I said, they didn't go that far off it until
No.
later
Yeah.
when they really kind of
They
changed their
just got
style.
better
But
at what they were
yeah,
doing,
yep,
really.
better songwriters,
Yep.
better singers, better riffs. They
Yes.
just kept
Yep.
tweaking it a little better, a little better, a little better. So yeah, Boy
Until
was
way later, then I go way off the rails, but
yeah,
we'll get to
yeah.
that.
We'll get to that.
All right. So number 7 for you. All right.
Yep.
On to an album that came out in October 12th, 1981, with 11 songs. The album's called October. So another Steve Lillywhite production. This was kind of spiritual and religious themed due to Bono, Edge, and Mullen's involvement in a Christian group called the Shalom Fellowship. So the lyrics are definitely written kind of from that point of view. There was a lot of pressure on them to complete this album, as they were very unprepared coming into the studio and had to write some stuff kind of on the fly, which is kind of became Bono's hallmark for a while there, writing lyrics. He definitely would not come prepared. It looked like he did try to prepare for this one, but he lost a briefcase, Bono did, containing lyrics and other recording ideas backstage in Portland, Oregon, while on the Boy tour. He got the briefcase back in 2004, but he definitely lost a lot of what he had already come up with at the time. Lily White called the recording sessions chaotic and mad. Here, I wrote this is another kind of description of their sound on this album. It's kind of the Clash meets Aha meets Echo and the Bunnymen meets Depeche Mode. Like you mash all those together, and that's what this album sounds like to me. I don't love any of those bands, but just I was like, okay, I hear a little bit of this in there, a little bit of that in there, a little bit of this, and I'm like, you know what, this just kind of fits. So I just kind of threw those in there. It still has that feel to it, like the first record that I can't really describe. But I don't like this one quite as much. But it's still a decent album. There's just no real hit on this one. There's no song to really grab my attention like I Will Follow from the first album. I don't think Edge even needs the top 2 or 3 strings on his guitar. It seems like he's always playing everything on the lower 3, G, B, and E. It seems like everything's just a jangling, thing that it's he has a sound all of his own, but I swear he could probably play a guitar with only 3 strings and nobody would even notice. My favorites on this one are Gloria, which I believe is the first track.
Yep.
And October is a real haunting, beautiful song that is easily the best song on this album. Without a Shout is much more like them and the most U2 sounding rock song on here. And Is That All? I kind of like that one too. Skippers for Me, Where I Fall Down, which is the second song. I Threw a Brick Through a Window. That's actually the name of a song. And Tomorrow. I didn't like Tomorrow. It's a very whiny song. And I didn't really like those. I listened to them, but I didn't really like them. So those are my skippers if I were to ever listen to this again, which I probably won't. So this one I have as a B-. I have it right behind the first one. I have this as number 6. It's much better second half of the album for me, other than Gloria. The 1 through 6 is pretty boring for me, except for Gloria, until you get to October. And then 7 to 11 was a much better listen for me. But I have this as a number 6 as a B-. What did you think of October?
So it's funny, I have this one slotted right behind Boy, just like you did. It obviously same era, it's a year apart. It sounds very similar. To me, these kind of sound like B-sides. If I was to say,
agreed.
Like Boy sounded like they had a clear vision, what they wanted to do. And then this one seems like it was like the ones that didn't quite make Boy. And again, I don't know if I haven't read into that. I don't know if that's the case.
I haven't either, but it makes sense if he lost a lot of song ideas and lyric ideas. It kind of makes sense if they just kind of had to throw it together. They probably did use some stuff that they had left over. I don't see why they wouldn't,
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. So a lot of these songs were even less memorable than Boy to me. I feel like the next album, I feel like they had a better preparation for it, and it really showed in the mix and the recording. But this one, like you mentioned, Glory, I think that's a really solid album opener.
Yes.
I liked Fire as well. And then October, like you mentioned, Stranger in a Strange Land is pretty good too. The rest of it to me is very strongly forgettable. Just not a whole lot in between those songs that I really would ever go back to listen to again. Just again, it kind of all explains it. It's a very similar sound to the first one. The songs are just not as strong. So to me, it's number 8, C plus. Like again, we're still in that same range.
Yeah,
they're basically brother and sister album. I just think that Boy was just a little bit stronger. October a little weaker, just songs wise. So number 8 for me. October.
All right. Yeah, that October song, man, I couldn't get over how much I enjoyed that one. I don't know that I had ever heard that song before going through this listen. And I was like, man, that's really good.
Yeah.
But not much else really there other than Gloria in that one. All right, on to War, February 28th, 1983. This is 10 songs. Steve Lillywhite again. This is kind of where they really start to hit their stride. They have something to say. They kind of build it around that, and really, really kind of take off with this one. This was my first exposure. This is probably a lot of people's first exposure, at least in the States, to these guys. You know, some hardcore fans may have heard the earlier stuff here and there, but this one is really what kind of put them on the global map. As much as I feel like they're overrated for their later work, I absolutely love the song Sunday Bloody Sunday. That's it's their apex for me. What a way to open an album. I mean, it's iconic. It's such a great song. Oh man. It's just fantastic. This is much more direct musically than the last kind of more ambient sounding October. This is kind of more, just them. They tried to make less of a feeling, like I mentioned on the first two albums, but this one really, really grabs you right away. It kind of a repeat song though, with seconds, almost the same drum pattern as Sunday Bloody Sunday, and it's not a great song. Like, it's just weird that you're gonna open up the album with a just unbelievably great song like Sunday Bloody Sunday, and then have a song right after that sounds almost the same, and it's nowhere near as good. Like, I don't know what they were doing there. It has the same kind of marching band kind of snare beat to it. Like, I'm like, why do they do that? What was the reason for that? If you're gonna put a song like that on there, put it like buried on the second side somewhere, so you're like, oh yeah, that's right. This sounded like that other song, but not right after it.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just a strange choice. New Year's Day has one of the more memorable bass lines of the day, kind of on par with Queen. We talked a lot about Queen and their bass lines. I mean, it's right up there. It's fantastic. Two Hearts Beat as One. Also, it kind of sounds like a stripped down song by the Cult. I don't know if you're into the Cult at all, but the Cult should cover that song and rock it up. That song is right in their wheelhouse. I'm like, man, I can hear the Cult doing this song and like making it more of a rock version. That would be fantastic. So that one really kind of grabbed me, although it's not a song I like so much by them, but it just sounded so much like something that the Cult would put out. That would be really good. My favorite song here is Sunday Bloody Sunday and New Year's Day, and that's kind of about it. I mean, I don't love this album, but I do love those two songs. Skipper's Seconds, like I said, not as good as the firsts. So not nearly as good. Drowning Man is kind of and I didn't like The Refugee either, the first song on the on side 2, or the second half of the album. I had this as a B. I have this at number 4. I don't like it all, but some of it is obviously really, really good. Sunday Bloody Sunday is a song that will stick out forever with me. It's just, I just can't believe how much I like that song by a band that I have said many, many times in my life that they're supremely overrated. It's a powerful song, and it kind of has the power to kind of take you back to memories and feelings of the day. Like, I remember watching MTV. I remember seeing this. I remember seeing, this, they did it like live at Red Rocks, was, somewhere around here. The Unforgettable Fire tour, I think, was at Red Rocks. And I saw it Sunday Bloody Sunday so many times, and it's so good. I just never got tired of it. It's just timeless. It just takes me back to being 11 years old somehow. But that song, along with New Year's Day, bumps it up kind of a whole letter grade easily for me. The rest of it kind of doesn't hold up as much. So I have this as number 4, and I have this as a kind of a solid B. What did you think of War?
War was a big step up for me.
Okay.
Really enjoyed War. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
I liked quite a bit more on this album than you did. I think the second side of this it was kind of an experience for me that I have never really heard this album a whole lot before. Obviously, the two that you mentioned, are classics, and I love them. You know, that drum start at the beginning of Sunday Bloody
Oh,
Sunday. It sounds like war drums,
yeah,
like a band's marching onto the
yeah,
battlefield with the with the soldiers and stuff. Super. It's just kind of it's a real like goosebumpy type feeling
it
for me
really
when
is.
it
They
hits. So
opened with it when they played at the Brown Stadium most recently when they were here, and I'm like, I probably could have paid the money, sat down, watched them play that song, and probably just walked out, and I'd have been like, "That was fantastic."
yeah.
Just the drums were in the middle. He
Hmm.
walked down the stage. There was nothing going on. He walked down the stage. I've seen a million clips of it, and I've watched them all. He walked down the stage. He sat down at the drums and just started playing it. I mean, it
Yeah.
was unbelievable, So I don't really miss that I didn't go to the show, but that would have been fantastic to see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I didn't go. I've never seen you two in concert.
Me neither.
That was the closest I'd become. I was just, you hit that time where you're like, well, I haven't seen the band. This might be one of
Yeah,
the last times they come. So, but I didn't go. It was pretty expensive.
it was.
I couldn't justify it. But anyway, uh, Sunday Bloody Sunday, awesome. New Year's Day, awesome. Seconds, like you said, is weird. And it starts off with Edge singing too, which is, it's kind of, I don't know, it doesn't sound right in my ears. It's just like that's not Bono's voice, so it's
Yeah.
weird to me. But like I mentioned, side two I think is really strong. I really like the Refugee, not so much, but the last four tracks I thought were really really good. Uh, just the Two Hearts Beat is one, Red Light, Surrender, and I thought 40 being a closer was really cool. Again, all these songs are pretty new. I've never really heard this album front to back before this exercise, so I'm impressed. War is really really good to me. Um, just night and day, more what I want to listen to than those first two records. So this one jumped all the way to number 2 for me, and this is a B plus. Just really really strong. Only one of their albums is an A tier album for me, but this is the next best. It's got really good high moments, and I really like the way this closes out. Probably the strongest B side for not B sides, but side 2 of any album that they do. It's a lot of their stuff is kind of front loaded to me, but this album I feel like it gets stronger as it goes after the two main singles. So, War number 2.
All right. Yeah, that live album that I was talking about at Red Rocks, that was Under a Blood Red Sky, and that was for the War album. That was not for the Unforgettable Fire, which is the next album. So I just wanted to make sure I corrected myself there. But that was where I saw that Sunday Bloody Sunday off of that live recording so many times. It's just so good.
Yep.
Okay, next album, Unforgettable Fire, was October 1st, 1984. So you have like a year later. Year and a half later. This is not Steve Lillywhite anymore. This is Brian Eno and Daniel Lanois. Lanois produced. They work with these guys almost all the way until today. So these guys are around a lot, producing the band from here forward. The band desperately kind of wanted a new, more artsy and serious direction, as they didn't want to become another like shrill arena act, which is what I saw the quote of, I think, Bono saying. I don't really know kind of what that means. I don't know that they were an arena act really, as when War came out. I mean, yeah, they're playing at Red Rocks, but Red Rocks doesn't hold 50,000 people.
No.
So I don't kind of understand that really, but I give them credit for, they're starting to be aware of themselves here. I'm going to talk a lot about that later, but this is it starts early on for them, that they really starts to be real self-aware. Pride and MLK are both lyrical tributes to Martin Luther King. I must say that all four of these albums are really well recorded, and the remastering in 2008 is great as well, enhancing and updating the already great sounding recordings. So I do have to give them credit for that. That whoever put that remastering stuff together, like, they just enhanced what was already sounded good, because that's kind of what I listened to mostly, was remastered stuff on Spotify, and it just, I remember listening to it back then, and it sounded great, and it still sounds great today. So. The band kind of liked the improvised nature of Bono's vocals, while he didn't really like the lack of completeness stemming from it. It made for a lot of last minute recording to get the album out. Like, he didn't really he kind of throw lyrics together on the fly. You know, I feel like they kind of started when he lost his briefcase, and he just kind of threw things together. And I feel the band kind of liked that for some reason. Maybe they felt like they got more out of him doing that. So he just kind of throw things together at the last minute in the studio, and it would come out pretty good. My favorites on this one are "Sort of Homecoming," and I believe that the first song on the album.
Yep, that's the opener.
Yeah, "Sort of Homecoming." I like that one. I like "Pride" a lot. That's a great song. Another really good song by them that's just kind of timeless. And I liked "Bad," which is on the second side of the album. Skippers for me are "Promenade," "4th of July," Elvis Presley, and "America." I mean, Elvis Presley and "America," I never really thought I'd put a skipper on one of my lists that says Elvis Presley in America. I'm not a big Elvis Presley fan, but it's America, for crying out loud. And I'm skipping America. But yeah, I didn't really care for those three songs. I have this as a B, though. I have this as 3. So I have this one spot up from War. It's a bit good and a bit weird at times, but it seems like the norm for their on the last 3 albums for me. But I like this one quite a bit more. It's just it didn't throw me off as much, I guess. So, but this is pretty much right there. I have the same letter grade on both. I have them both as a B, but I have this at number 3. Where did you have and what did you think of The Unforgettable Fire? Was it forgettable for you?
At times,
Okay.
it was, but this is the textbook what I was talking about before, where these guys could put together a amazing half of an album.
Yeah.
I feel like the first side of this album is great. Like if they would have just replicated the first half to the second, at least, sort of the same, we would have a great album on our hands. But I just the first half of this is great. Sort of Homecoming you mentioned, I think is a great opener. It's a great song. Pride is classic. Like everybody knows that song.
Everybody knows.
In the Name of Love. Yeah, it basically everybody sings along to that. Wire is good. And I think the title track is probably my favorite song on the album, The Unforgettable Fire. It's just great. Classic U2 riff, bass line, Bono vocals. It's just really, really solid. But that side 2 is just a lot to be desired.
Yeah.
Bad is okay, you mentioned. It's just a little long for me. 6 minutes. Probably could have been 4 for me, and I would have been fine with that. Nothing else really on side 2 really stuck out to me. So again, we got a really good half of an album for me. So to me, this lands at number 4 and a B. So it's it's still really, really good. It's still upper echelon U2. When they hit, they're on fire. But sometimes I just get bored. I'm like, don't really like what they're going for here. It just kind of seems like they have a direction, and like none of these albums seem like they're complete in a thought. It's like,
Yep.
It's like I feel like I want to go this way, and then all of a sudden they change gears, and it just doesn't sound the same. So, again, really good classic stuff. I really like The Unforgettable Fire, but it lands at number 4 for me.
All right. Yeah. It's speaking of on fire, onward we go to The Joshua Tree, March 10th, 1987. 11 songs. This is Eno and Lanoy again. This is the album that just completely sent them into the stratosphere. They sold 25 million copies of this album. They were everywhere. You could not escape them. This is where they wore me out and pushed me away, but not them. It's not their fault. We've talked many times and we'll continue to say it. I can't hold this against the band. They wrote some just ridiculously classic, great songs that just MTV and radio stations, and they just pummeled you with these songs over and over again. It was almost like they were the only band on the planet for a while. It was just, man, enough. I mean, they're great songs, but geez.
Yeah.
So there's also other things that kind of push me away from them too. I was into heavier much heavier music at the time and sleazier party music. Like I'm 15 at this point, so I'm into just different stuff, heavy metal and partier type music, and this just didn't really fit with that anymore. Like this music kind of still has a message, that I was just like, well, whatever, this is kind of the point where I didn't really care about lyrics much anymore, which I've mentioned many times. This was kind of at the point in my life where I'm just like, yeah, I don't, whatever. So I was looking to have fun and headbang with my buddies, and none of us were listening to U2. So, um, this is a really, really top heavy with the biggest 3 songs to start off the album you can ever imagine from any band. It's the reason this album has sold 25 million copies. It's the first 3 songs. They're all right in a row.
Yeah.
Just uh simple, completely iconic bass line to start with or without you, reminiscent of like Sting and the Police kind of stuff. Just great songs here. My favorites are the first 3, which are Where the Streets Have No Name, I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, and With or Without You. Everybody knows all 3 of those songs. If you've ever heard U2, you could not escape them. If you were alive in the 80s, you could not escape them.
Right.
Bullet the Blue Sky has a really good heavy groove on it, and another great bass line, and In God's Country. So that's 5 songs out of 11 that I really liked on this album, which is probably the most of any album we're going to review. My skippers, though, I still had a couple. Running to Stand Still, and then Mothers of the Disappeared. Just kind of a waste of a song at the end of the album to me. I don't know why that's even on here. And it's just make it 10 songs and they maybe would have been 30 million sold. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't really care for that one at all. This one I have as a B plus. You kind of see where I'm going with this. This is number 1 for me. So I have no A albums for them. There's just no, and you said it, dude. You nailed it. Like, they have no complete albums for me. None.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing that's just a complete, hey, I like just about every song on here. Every song, there's a couple songs where I'm like, man, what are they doing? Like, I really just don't like this one and this one. Like, this one, I liked 5 of the songs. The rest of it's kind of listenable, but there's 2 songs that I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. So there's some great iconic stuff here. The media beat me to death with it. Not their fault. When I first heard this album, I liked it. I got so tired of it and I was into other things that, I couldn't really revisit it much anymore after that. So it was kind of good to go back and listen to it. It kind of takes me back kind of in a time machine, like I mentioned before, of simpler times in our lives, and where, you know, you just sit down and listen to something and there's some great stuff on here. Don't get me wrong. So it's just, I don't have any A's for them because I just don't like anything in total that much. So this is as close as it got as a B plus, number 1. What did you think of the Joshua Tree?
Yeah, this was the closest to me for a full, complete album.
Yeah.
I actually really like everything on here until probably the last 2 songs, Exit.
Okay.
Mothers of the Disappeared. I agree on that one. Exit, I wasn't a fan of, but everything else I really like. Different degrees of like, but everything was really, really good. I like One Tree Hill. I like In God's Country. Those are really, really good songs to me. Red Hill Mining Town, I think, is really good also. You mentioned the first. You said the first 3. I think first 4 are classic.
Yeah. I mentioned Bullet the Blue Sky too. That's
Yeah.
a really good heavy groove with a great bass line on that one. Really good song.
They really do a good job of the builds up with the drums at the beginning, the bass line. Like, they do a really good build. I think those are their best songs. When either Bono or not Bono, when the Edge is setting an atmosphere, like Where the Streets Have No Name at the very beginning, like the atmospheric guitar that he plays, and then the opposite with Sunday Bloody Sunday, Bullet the Blue Sky, same thing. Starts with the drums, the bass line, builds up into everybody kind of going at it. So I love it. I remember POD covered it. I was like, man, this is sweet too.
Which one?
Bullet the Blue Sky.
Oh, okay. I'll have to look for that one.
Yeah,
I like POD too, and I don't think I've ever heard it.
Yeah, they did a cover of it. It was really, really cool.
Nice.
But yeah, this is a really, really good album to me. This is the A album for me. Obviously, this is the closest that they come to getting a full, complete thought in my mind, at least to me. The last 2 songs, if you're going to put the weakest songs on an album, put them at the end. That's perfectly fine to me. At least I know I could throw this album on and I have a good 40 minutes of enjoyable listening to me that I know I can turn it off after. So
yep,
that's good for me. Joshua Tree, number 1, A, the only A album in my opinion of U2, but they really nailed it here. This was the apex U2. After this, they got a little experimental, some of which was good, some of which was not very good. Very divisive albums coming up, but this one I don't think is very divisive. Most people probably like this one a lot. So,
Yep,
um,
I agree.
so Joshua Tree, a number one.
And at least they consulted with you pre-birth to put the songs you don't like the most at the end of the album. So,
I
that's great that they're just able to skip them right off. You're like, hey, I'm good. I'm done. 9 songs. I'm out.
I was 6, so I was
All right.
born.
All right. So not pre-birth. My bad.
I was 6, but
Your young self. I'm glad they
I did know how to
consulted with
read
you.
and stuff. So I mean, at least they didn't. The album before this, I wouldn't have been able to give them a solid answer. But
Yeah.
6
All
years
right.
old.
Onward we go. I totally screwed that joke up. Anyway, Rattle and Hum. This is where we talk a little bit about Rattle and Hum. So, Rattle and Hum spawned a couple of hit singles because they were on fire at this point. If they'd have just put an album out, I think they'd have been fine. But they didn't. So, they put out Angel of Harlem and Desire, which everybody knows. They
Love
played the
Desire.
crap out of those two. They're really good songs. Both earworms, like Angel of Harlem just sticks in my head too. It's an earworm of a song, but this was otherwise panned by many as really self-indulgent and even arrogant celebration of themselves. It wasn't cohesive at all. Now, what they were trying to do here is kind of celebrate like R&B and like celebrate acts that came before them, but it really came off as them just kind of celebrating themselves. They had a bunch of live tracks, so it really wasn't a studio album in our opinion. It only had a couple of studio songs on it. And that's all I've got to say about that. So
Fair enough.
we're going to move on to 1991. I don't even know what year that one came out. Well, see, I got a
88.
88.
Yep.
There's so much like Joshua Tree stuff that I could have covered. I mean, we could probably spend a whole hour and 15 minutes just talking about the Joshua Tree stories and stuff
Yep.
that's in here, but there wasn't a lot that I read that I felt like was really that entertaining. So, but again, I'm not the hugest U2 fan, so I apologize to U2 fans, all 20 million of you, that I didn't get into more of that. But we got 13 albums to review, so we had to move along. So the next one is November 18th, 1991. This is Achtung Baby. So this again was produced by Eno and Lanoy. This was a more industrial and electronic version of the band after the Rattle and Hum bashing they took. It seems like they just kind of changed it up. I don't know if that was coincidence, if that was kind of a sign of the times that they decided to do something kind of completely different for them, but it is a lot different than what they had been doing. They completely switched gears. But this was their kind of let's wear leather and be a rock band era, I guess you could say. Bono said that making this album, he feels like is the reason that they're still here now, because I think he knows that they were kind of smelling themselves a little bit, and they put Rattle and Hum on. It just didn't go well, and they're like, let's just do something different, and it worked. It worked. They sold a lot of copies of this album. It really worked. Ultraviolet is really only one of the few songs that sound like past albums. Most of the rest of this does not sound like their past material. My favorites on here are Even Better Than the Real Thing, One, not to be confused with Metallica's One, Mysterious Ways. What a guitar riff and bass line. I mean, Mysterious Ways is a kind of song that, like, you're like, they had to have remade this, right? Like, isn't this a remake? Like, it just has that kind of, I guess, sound to it that you're like, man, I feel like I've heard this song a million times, and it's a new song.
Yep.
But what a fantastic guitar riff and bass line. It's just such an earworm. Skippers on here, I didn't like Zoo Station, and I didn't like So Cruel. I didn't care for those very much. Man, it's just all kinds of stuff on this album too. I have this as a B plus. I have this one as number 2. I kind of like the more industrial sound and distorted guitar on this one. I was getting tired of Edge's kind of jangliness. His high 3 string kind of jangle that he had going on, because everything kind of sounded the same. Yeah, they wrote some great songs with that, but I was just getting kind of tired of it because it was always kind of the same. I was pleasantly surprised with how much I liked this album. There's still a couple skippers here, but more rock also, which is always a good thing for me. So I had this at B plus number 2. What did you think of Achtung, baby?
Yeah, this is really cool to me. And I probably agree with what he was saying when he's saying this might have saved them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that same kind of sound was getting a little stale,
Yeah.
especially when you hit something like the Joshua Tree. Like at that point, it's like, what are you going to do to top that? And I think it was pretty genius of them to just say, all right,
Not
well,
top it.
yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna
Right.
just go a different direction.
Let's reinvent instead of try to top it.
Exactly. And
Smart.
I love the sound. Some of the
Yeah.
songs I don't love, but I would give them a ton of credit. This sounds great. It sounds really well mixed. I really like the sound. I like how it still sounds like U2, but it is just very different. So I'm with you. Even better than the real thing is awesome. I think One is probably one of their favorite, my favorite songs by them.
Yeah.
Really,
Fantastic.
really good song. Until the End of the World, Who's Gonna Ride Your Wild Horses? I think these are all really good songs. Mysterious Ways is awesome. The rest are kind of forgettable. Nothing super bad. But again, it's really tough for them to put together a full album that I love every song. So that's kind of where this shortcomings come. Zoo Station, I agree, not the best album
Yeah.
opener.
It's that bad.
The
I don't
end, the
know.
end
The
of the
bad
album,
choice.
end of the album, it also just seems too
Yeah.
long and just it's kind of too much.
This album's almost an hour. Like they put
I
too
know.
much in here.
Yeah, like if they would have went like 2 to 9, I think we would have had a much better album.
Yeah. Agreed.
Tongue Baby is really good though. I really really appreciated going back and listening to it.
Me
And I
too,
have
man.
and I have a new appreciation for
Me too.
the whole
Totally
thing.
surprised. I
This
think
is
it's just less atmosphere and more like in your face music.
yes, yeah,
Like that
totally agree. Totally agree. It's just sounds really 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 good. And my boy Flood, who was kind of the producer engineer of the times, a lot of bands that I really liked with the industrial type thing. I like Flood. People are kind of mixed on it. You don't like Flood, or
um
do you know
I
about
guess I'm
Flood?
not really all that familiar with Flood, but
Okay.
I'm not sure Flood did him any favors on the next album. so
No, he didn't. He
so
didn't. I
yeah.
I agree, but at least the songs were good here.
Yeah. Yeah.
The songs were better here, but see, like I like a lot of the Nine Inch Nails,
Yeah.
Gary Newman, Depeche Mode, those type of bands, and he produced a lot of their albums, and
Yeah.
that's kind of where I know him from. And then
Yeah.
he worked on this
All
one,
this stuff
so
sounds amazing too,
yeah,
which makes sense that this sounds great too. So
yep, totally
makes
agree. So
makes
yeah,
total
this
sense.
this one's number 3 for me. Really, really high, really, really good. This is one I probably even more than my number 2 and 1 that I'll probably go back and listen to this some more.
Yeah.
Was pretty impressed. I haven't really listened to. I mean, obviously the songs I know, but I really enjoyed listening to this album. So
Yeah.
again, number 3 for me in the U2 catalog.
Yep. I totally agree. It's just pleasantly surprised with how much I like that whole album. I was like, man, I guess I should have gave them more of a chance, when this came out back in the day. Like I had heard the hits, and I don't know. I honestly I don't know that I ever listened to this whole album before this, a couple weeks ago. So, but yeah, definitely I'll probably be revisiting that one. All right, on to Zooropa, which is July 5th, 1993, 10 songs. This was produced by Flood, who you just mentioned, Brian Eno, and Edge, the guitar player from U2. Yeah, not a whole lot on this one other than not sure what the first 4 tracks are. They went totally off the rails, it sounds like here. Read a lot too much experimentation. This should have been put out 10 years earlier, and it might have fit better with the electronic dance stuff of that time. Not 1993, like 1983, maybe. Even Johnny Cash couldn't save this album. So Johnny Cash is on a song called The Wanderer at the end of this album, and even that one's no good. So I have Yuck, Yuck, Yuck. And then I have favorites, Stay, I
Yep.
guess.
Far away.
Yeah, song 5. That's That's about it. If that one. Skippers, the first 4 are just absolutely awful songs. Awful, awful songs by anybody. Just not good. I have this one at the bottom. I went from a number 2 album 2 years earlier, number 2 on their catalog, to number 13. Nothing in between. Just 2 to 13. Like that's as drastic a change as it gets by anybody.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just I don't know what they were doing here. This right here is what makes me dread listening to a U2 catalog is stuff like
Yeah.
this. Like I know it's out there. I know they have this stuff out there. You know, I know they're capable of beating to death a sound that works with very little variety, and then goes so far away from that that it's completely unrecognizable and awful. So yeah, I don't know what they were trying to do here. I can't even begin to explain it. But this I have as a D. This is number 13 for me. What did you think of Zoo Europa?
Well, I gave it better points than you did. I think for being creative. I liked the production sound. Um, it was a decent sounding album. Now, do I like the songs? No. Um, but this band, they kind of bottom out for me. A lot of the rest of the albums, like I feel like everything that they did after Actung was, especially when they started getting eh, kind of experimental like this. I feel like I give them credit for trying to do something different because they probably saw how good that little change did for them. But the songs just aren't very good here, and unfortunately, but I do think they get way worse. Unfortunately,
Wow.
yeah. I think even the next one is worse, but this one, like I said, some of the sounds and stuff. I kept on like I agree with you. I don't really like any of that the first couple songs, but the sound of it at least intrigued me. It was at least like okay, like it sounds pretty good. I know I've heard Numb before. It's totally weird, but it's that video where like the Edge is singing it and they like wrap a microphone cord around him or something. Like the video always stuck out in my head. And he's the one that's don't do don't what all the things don't do and all that stuff. So again, Stay is okay. The first time is okay. Nothing really great here, but I guess I gave them more credit for the way that the album sounds, and I really, really like the way it sounds. Again, the songs not great, but this is number 9 for me, which means I thought there were plenty of them worse. I feel like at least they were trying to be something different and trying to be authentic. And later on, to me, it rubs me the wrong way. A lot of these albums just sound so inauthentic. So Zooropa, while not good, I do give them kudos on the sound of it. Number 9, it's a C for me. A lot of C's and D's coming up. Just kind of a warning. Zooropa, C, number 9.
Yeah, give your boy Flood credit for how it sounds, not them.
No, I agree with
Oh
that.
boy. I don't know. I don't know what was going on there. All right. On to Pop. March 3rd, 1997. 12 songs on here. Flood, Steve Osborne, and Howie B produced this one. More dance rock garbage. Better than Zooropa, but still terrible for me. I'm talking when I'm talking slightly better, I mean very, very slightly. A bunch of these songs were written during the Zooropa sessions, which makes total sense to me. Most of this is completely forgettable. My favorites, I guess, Staring at the Sun and Wake Up Dead Man, I guess. I don't know. Last Night on Earth and Gone are okay songs, I suppose, but nothing that I really like. I wouldn't even call them favorites. Like, those are the only songs I could actually listen to, really. I didn't like Do You Feel Loved? I didn't like Mofo. I didn't like Miami. I didn't like most of the rest of it. I have this as a D plus, number 12 out of 13, only slightly better than Zooropa. So I'm guessing this is probably bottom of the barrel for you, but it's way down there for me too. I'm not going to try to put lipstick on this hog and call it anything other than what it is, but it's not good either. So, what did you think of Pop?
Yeah, this is this is bottom of the barrel for me.
Yeah.
This is the last album, but B side. So the B sides for me, it's basically like polishing a turd, like I always say. Like you're trying to make whatever you did last time, work, and it doesn't. It's bad. This is a D minus. I would never listen to any of this. Just from you even, I think Discotheque is as bad as it gets, and
Oh, yeah.
that was
Yeah.
their like big single to release this
Yeah.
album.
Yeah.
No, this one's a big no for me. At least the other one, I'm like, and this is Flood too, and I think this sounds worse.
Yeah.
I don't like their direction here at all. So yeah, this is 13 and a D for me.
Yeah.
This is bad. This is not good.
All right, we'll just move along, 'cause those are a couple of turds there. All That You Can't Leave Behind, October 30th, 2000, 11 songs. I'm really glad they left those other two albums behind. So we'll
Yes.
put it that way. So All That You Can't Leave Behind, well, I'm glad those are behind them. This is Eno and Lanoy again. So kind of they tried to go back to what worked for them, because I don't think Zooropa or Pop worked for them commercially at all. Zooropa probably did a little bit because Octung Baby did so well, but I always say that I feel like the album after a really good album is always going to sell well, because especially back then, this is still before people are downloading songs and pre-listening to albums before they go buy them. So you just kind of like, hey, new U2 album's coming out. Like, I'll go buy it. Like, I don't really like that Discotheque song, but yeah, how bad can the album be? Or you know what I mean? But then you're like, whoa. So I don't think Pop did well at all. So they kind of went back and like, okay, let's kind of go back to what worked for us a little bit, which is smart, I guess, because they got away from it. It really worked with Octung Baby, and then it kind of went downhill from there. And now they're like, okay, let's regroup. What do we need to do? Let's go back to kind of what we did before. This is a return to form from the weirdness. Back to a regular rock band. I felt like still industrial, but with much more rock hook and kind of sensibility from the craziness of the last two albums. 1 through 4 are decent songs, or to good songs, and the rest is kind of blah for me. So it doesn't hit on all the cylinders like that they did before. But there is some really, there's a couple of really, really good songs. The band admits that this was kind of an acknowledgement of their past as well. So even they admit that they tried to go back and acknowledge what they did before. So Beautiful Day is a great song. It opens the album. So smart to do that. I liked Elevation a lot too. Those are I think the two big hits off of this one.
Mm-hmm.
I did like both of those songs. Skippers for me, I didn't like Kite. I didn't like In a Little While. I didn't like Peace on Earth. This I have as a C plus. I have this at number 8, so it's kind of down the bottom half, but it's way better than the last two albums were for me. But more than half of it was just kind of blah, so it wasn't great, and they don't really do much to save themselves from here on out for me either. I am right with you. Like after Octung Baby, everything else is 2 to 3 to 10 steps behind what that was. So, there is some good songs here and there. I think off of all these albums, and I don't want to really sound like a downer because people are just going to probably tune out the rest of this whole episode, but they could probably make one decent album out of all the songs on all the rest of these albums for me. So there's just not much to really love. So I have this as a C plus, number 8. What did you think of All That You Can't Leave Behind?
Well, John
Hi,
agrees.
John.
Yeah, I was just going to say hi to John. He agrees that he doesn't think they have very many good songs the rest of the way, and he really liked them until 87. See, this little, I guess.
Europa.
I guess he didn't like that one that much.
No, he didn't.
See, I like this album and the next one. I like it quite a bit more than, again, they have their main 4, I think, which most people agree probably are their top 4. I didn't like their first 2 all that much. I like these 2 a little bit better than those first ones.
Okay.
So that's kind of where
these are a little better for you then. That's good.
I do. I do, and it's probably just because I was around when these songs got big. But this one and
I
the next
wasn't
one,
dead, I mean, I'm old, but I wasn't dead when these songs came out.
no, but I was basically dead when those first two records came out.
I
So
know. It's
that
just
was
funny.
my
You're
point.
like, I was around.
No, I'm talking in reference to
I know.
Boy in October.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would
I
not
got
have been around for those two.
you.
So
Gotcha.
it was not a slight at you. This was a slight
I know.
at my parents for not making me earlier, I guess.
Yeah, what the heck, man?
But yeah, but again, this album, next album, same thing. Half of a really good album, and then just lost sight on what they were doing. Doesn't really mesh for me. Beautiful Day, Elevation, you mentioned. I like Walk On a lot. Stuck in a Moment, you can't get out of it is pretty cool. At least it's catchy, like you sing along to it. But yeah, it's that first side of the album, and then I don't really need to listen to anything else. So it's solid. I like it. Like I said, where it slots in. This is number 5 for me. It's a B minus, just off the first side of the album. Pretty good. You know, like they're catchy songs. I like it. Unfortunately, their best song that they did in this whole era was not on an album. I just have to kind of throw is the "Hold Me, Thrill Me, Kiss Me, Kill Me" from the Batman soundtrack.
Yeah, really good
I
song.
love that song.
Glad you brought that up. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a great
it
song.
really is.
It's just it's a little hard rocker, and you know, again, it was during this time, so it doesn't really fit on any of the albums, but it's a killer song. So anyway, All That You Can't Leave Behind for me, number 5, B minus.
All right. So on to How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb. November 22nd, 2004. 11 songs on here. Steve Lillywhite is back.
Welcome back, sir.
Welcome back, Steve Lillywhite. Much more reminiscent of the rock band they once were, some 15 years earlier, only updated. Bono describes it as their first rock album in like 20 years. Agreed. Less atmosphere and electronics, more just straight up musicianship. Hola! I love Vertigo. It's a great song. I can never get that song out of my head after I hear it. I'm always surprised. I'm like, yes, right. I love that song. I can't deny it. So it's like an Octung Baby version of one of their older songs. That's how I described it. Really, really good stuff. City of Blinding Lights I liked too on this album. Skipper's One Step Closer. I didn't really care for that one. I don't have a whole lot written on this album. I was just kind of like, I don't know. I felt like going through these albums, I'm like, I don't know, I really don't like a lot of this stuff. So it was kind of numbing for me to go through these. But I have this as a C plus. I have this at number 7. This is the highest of all of these last, I don't know, 8 albums here. At 7. If you really like the U2 original rock band sound, you'll like most of this. It's just the songs just aren't as good for the most part. I just don't think as much of it's memorable other than those 2 songs, but it's way better than those 2 90s albums for sure. And it's more even with less skippers, mostly listenable. I mean, I got it as a C plus. I probably could have even put it as a B minus, really. I do like this album more than all the rest of these, but this one it isn't just up to their standards either, to the heights that they reached earlier. So, what did you think of How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb?
Yeah, same. I mean, you can almost copy and paste from the last album. First half is good. Second half, not so memorable. Vertigo, other than the Uno Dos Tres Catorce, which is the dumbest.
1, 2, 3, 14.
Yeah, the dumbest line I've probably heard in a song. So I would love to know the story behind that, but Bono is keeping a closed lip. I could not find anything of the reason why he did that. So
I didn't either.
If anybody knows, please let
why
me know.
he threw in an hola.
Right.
It's so funny.
Hola and 1, 2, 3, 14. I don't know. But the rest of the song is pretty good. I've liked it. Miracle Drug, I think, is pretty good. Sometimes You Can't Make It on Your Own, a pretty good ballad. Again, sticks in my head. City of Blinding Lights is really, really good.
Yeah, I like that one.
Really, really like that song. Again, that kind of sounds more like that could be on like a Joshua Tree.
Yeah.
It's very atmospheric. It's very, very good song. So, but not much on the second half really keeps my interest. So again, we're still slotting this like right in that, not as bad as the more recent stuff and the pop electronic stuff, but it's better to me than those first couple albums. So to me, it's number 6, B minus, like right alongside the All You Can't Leave Behind. Um, Again, they kind of have eras for me. Like 1 to 4 is one era. The
Yeah.
5 and 6 are another era. The 7 and 8 are another, and then everything else is kind of after that. So this slots into pretty good. They have some good songs and some unforgettable stuff that I don't really care for. But How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb, number 6, B minus.
All right. So on to No Line on the Horizon. This is February 27th, 2009. 11 songs on here. Now they have Eno, Lanoy, and Steve Lillywhite. They started with Rick Rubin in 2006, but they shelved most of that material. This is the first record since 2004. So this is 2009. Now, this is the longest gap to this point for them. This is kind of where they really kind of, I don't know, they kind of fell off in a way that they really, I think, they got to smelling themselves again. I think they intended to write this album. Now listen to this. This is a quote from Bono. They intended to write future hymns, songs that would be played forever. Like, what? Are you kidding? Talk about smelling yourself, man. Jeez, dude. You're gonna write hymns now, songs that are, gonna be played forever. Yeah, not so much, man. Bono wrote lyrics from different perspectives of different characters for this one, which I thought was kind of a cool idea, but none of it really works for me, though. This was originally intended as 2 EPs that just ended up getting combined into one album, which is probably better because it's not really good anyway. A companion film was filmed for this and released called Linear. It was released alongside the album. I've never seen it, and I'll probably never watch it. My favorites are nothing. Nothing really stands out for me. Skippers, none of them. All of them. I don't know. This is a C minus kind of material. This is number 9 for me. It's all of these next 3 albums are all kind of the same for me. They all run together. Nothing is horrible for the most part, but there's literally 0 memorable songs on this album for me. 0. There are none. So I can put it on and just listen to it in the background and probably not be like, okay, this is garbage. I got to turn this off. But there's just nothing on here I really like either. So I don't know. C minus, number 9. I mean, I hate to sound like a downer. It's just this whole just big chunk of the second half of their catalog. I'm just like, man, after Octung Baby, it just crashed and burned. It seemed like for me after that. And this kind of doesn't sound anything like the original band. This kind of sounds like, adult oriented, easy listening kind of music. Like, I don't know. There's no message here. It's just kind of there. I don't know. What did you think of No Line on the Horizon?
Yeah, unfortunately, I am going to echo your sentiments here. These next 3 albums they're not as bad as Pop, but they're bad.
Yeah.
In my ear, like you said, nothing memorable. It doesn't sound authentic. It doesn't it sounds like they're miserable doing this.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like they're having fun. And I was checked out by time this album came in. I was trying to look for something. And the only things that ever stood out were bad. Like, get up, get on your boots. Like, that's trash to me. Like, that's not even listenable to me. That's
get on your boots.
Get on your boots. He just kept repeating that over and over. Like, no, this
That's
is
fair.
pretty bad. I could have moved.
Is that the first single off of this one? Did I just see that? Get on your boots is the first single released off of this album.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I remember hearing it for the first time on. It was like the NFL was using it for like an intro music or something. I'm like, what is this garbage? And I didn't even know it was U2. And then whatever. This again, I could have slotted any of these last three albums, any particular order. They're all D plus to me. Barely listenable. Again, nothing horrible, but not good. I will never listen to Line on the Horizon. I'll just put it at 11, maybe because I like the next one a little worse and the one after that a little bit more. I don't know. But this for me is number 11, D plus, not good. U2.
All right. We'll move right along then. Songs of Innocence, September 9th, 2014, 11 songs. The most interesting thing I can say about this one is this is the free one that Apple put out. They put on everybody's iPhone. When you got an iPhone, it came automatically installed. Like everybody wants to hear this version of U2. No, they don't. So this was produced by Danger Mouse, Paul Epworth, and too many other people to name. I just feel like maybe they have too many people involved in this. I don't know. It's a crappy album released free to all iTunes customers at no cost, making it the largest album release of all time. Hey, congratulations, you gave it away for free, but none of it's any good.
Yeah.
Another long gap here, 5.5 years. Might as well have been an eternity because it's just still the same thing. It could have been 5 minutes. It could have been 100 years. It's exactly the same thing. They try to pay tribute to their musical influences like the Ramones and the Clash, and there's even in some song titles. But just it sold terribly upon initial physical release. But somehow, of course, in Grammy style, got nominated for a Grammy for Best Rock Album. Slow year, eh?
Yeah, U2 created something. Let's put them in
for
there
free. I even put insert eye roll here. I think I put in there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is at least though nobody else decided to do this because this was widely regarded as a marketing misstep that hurt the band's career, legitimately. So, at least nobody else decided to do that. Just force their album on everybody. I'm like, what are they doing?
Yeah.
So whatever. So they apparently Apple paid them all kind of money, and maybe they were, Steve Jobs was a huge fan of them. I don't know.
Yeah.
My favorites are they all kind of sound the same. They're mid tempo, droning, whiny vocals, understated guitar, bass driven tracks. You almost can't tell one song to the next. I swear the first 5 songs all kind of sounded the same. There are a couple that I would absolutely skip. Raised by Wolves is just weird, and so is Sleep Like a Baby Tonight. Both of those songs I didn't care for at all. I have this as a C minus, number 10. The album cover kind of disturbs me a little bit, I'm going to be honest. Other than a couple songs, I could probably just let it play, but again, nothing stands out. It's just a whole lot of blah. Yeah, it's not good. Not good at all. Yeah. Yes, Brian. It's audacious is definitely a term that it fits. I would use stupid, but audacious, ballsy, that's definitely a huge marketing scheme. And hey, like I said, it was the biggest, largest album release of all time. Great. So what did you think of Songs of Innocence, even though we probably already know? So.
Well, see, so I wonder if we're just saying that was a failure, whatever, because the album was bad. I'm trying to think of something else that came out around this time, but since my buddy Brian had chimed in, what if, because I know he's a big Green Day fan, it's his favorite band. What if American Idiot in a release thing decided we're going to put this on iTunes for free? That was well panned and loved by everybody, not just Green Day fans. It kind of got to the masses, especially with songs like Boulevard of Broken Dreams, things like that. Imagine if that album was given to everybody for free when that came out. Would we have been like, oh my God, it's a genius move? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering.
Yeah, that's why I say that, audacious is a good way to put it. Because, it definitely took a lot of balls to do that, So,
Yep.
Yeah, right. There's albums I would love have been forced on me too that I didn't have to go find. But unfortunately, this isn't one of them. But hey, they got nominated for a Grammy, so there must have been something great.
The joke must have been on us.
Yeah, joke's on us.
This is bad. I only like this a little bit better than the last one because I do like the song California. I don't like, again, Like is when I listen to 11 songs and that one's like, okay, this listenable. Like, what am I really saying here? It was okay. As far as songs on here, I don't know. Song for Someone, I just had to laugh. Like, the song is for someone, not me, but it's got to be for someone. I kind of laughed at that.
Yeah.
So not good. Again, I have it a step above the last one. So number 10, but it's still a D plus. It's not anything I would ever listen to ever again. So Song of Innocence, not for me. Not good.
Were you disturbed by the album cover?
Yeah, I guess. Like I don't know what they were. I
Yeah.
assume it was like a statement that they were trying to make, which good. Like if they're trying to go for like gay rights, if that's what this is supposed to be,
Yeah.
like a two men relationship, all for it. I like when they had messages in their songs.
Yeah.
It's really hard for me to be like think that this stuff's authentic because it feels not authentic anymore.
No.
So I don't know. Again, it doesn't really disturb me. I just kind of looked at it and was like, they must be, reaching out to say that they want to fight for gay rights or something, and that's great if
Yeah.
that's what they want to do. That's honestly when I looked at the cover, that was my thought was okay. Well, at this time they're looking to fight for gay rights. So good for them. I like the message then better than I like any songs on the album. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the way I looked at it. So
Yeah. I don't know. I just think it was a little too in my face,
yeah,
I
in your
guess.
face. Yeah, I get it.
So,
It is kind of shocking.
but whatever.
Yeah.
We'll move on. It's not really really isn't even worth talking about. I just thought I'd ask because,
Yeah, that's fair. That's
eh,
fair.
kill a little time with all this droning that we have in this last few albums here. But anyway, Songs of Experience, December 1st, 2017. 13 songs on this one. This is the last one we'll review. This is produced by Jackknife Lee. Yeah. Okay. And
Mhm.
Ryan Tedder, and again, too many people to name. There's so many names. This is intended as a companion piece to the previous album, which, yay for us. Collection of letters Bono wrote to people close to his heart were kind of what the lyric content was supposed to be, at least at first, I guess. This features guest appearances by Kendrick Lamar and Lady Gaga, so there's definitely got some other people to, I feel like, try to help build them up a little bit because I don't feel like things were going very well for him here, with especially with the free release and the kind of the bashing they took because of that. Now we get to the point where Bono rewrote lyrics, and many songs were re-recorded due to a shift in political climate. Like, chasing much? Like, what are you doing? You guys used to stand for something, and like you said, like we were talking about the album cover of the last album, like here it looks like they're trying to stand for something, but then just a few years later, they're changing lyrics and re-recording songs because the political climate changed. Since when do they do things based on the political climate? I don't know. This band is so concerned with itself and its image. It kind of disgusts me a little bit, really. So I don't know. This album received mixed reviews. I did see something interesting that Edge said, which I had never heard anybody say before, and I had to put it in here because I thought that was really interesting. He said that at the end of your album recording cycle, that you're at the height of, now he called them writing powers, but he said that you're at the height of your writing powers in terms of creativity and arrangement, and you get to that point just in time to go out on tour, which he said is a shame since you seem to be at that point doing your best creative work. And I'm like, dude, that makes a lot of sense. Actually, you're in the studio, you have all this material written, you're changing things up, you're putting things together, and just when you get to the point where you're like, wow, I think we really have a solid album here, and you go put it out, and then that's the end of the creative process for you. You just go out and perform it then.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that just really hit me as something really interesting I've never heard anybody say. So hey, kudos to him for throwing that out there because I thought that was great. Favorites on this album, there's really nothing. More of the same kind of droning stuff. You're the Best Thing About Me is about the best of the last two albums, and it's not a great song either for me. And what did Edge do to piss everybody off? It's almost all bass and drums and keys and tracks. Even
Yeah.
the songs that Edge starts, he just gets drowned out and buried later in the song. Like there's almost no guitar on this other than like the intros to a couple songs. Like I'm listening, trying to at least hear some of what Edge used to do or anything.
Yeah.
I don't know if he did something to piss people off, but it's way less than even on the last two albums.
Yeah.
It's all just keyboards and like pre-recorded tracks and bass and drums and singing. Like I'm like, there's almost no guitar here at all. Like Edge could have just sat this one out and the album would have sounded almost the same.
Yeah.
So the skippers it's just all kind of blah. The Blackout, I guess, is the only, I don't know, it's the only song with a bit of energy, but it sucks. So unfortunately that didn't really help. I have this as a C minus. This is number 11. This is a total just blah album for me. It's the kind of thing that somebody puts on when it's dreary and rainy and cold outside, and you just sit there and be sad, but you don't summon the energy to go shut it off. This album has nothing. It's no energy other than the one song that felt like high energy, but it's just a terrible song. So I have this as number 11, the C minus, and that's about the best way I can sum it up. So what did you think of, what is this one even called? Songs of Experience. What did you think of Songs of Experience? I couldn't even remember what it was called.
Oh
man.
Yeah, this is probably the most least authentic to me. It just kind of feels like they're going through the motions at this point. I feel like a lot of bands, I think, when they've been around for this long, they just don't feel like they're being creative anymore. I don't know. Like, are they just going through the motions at this point? This feels like it. The Edge does play the keyboard, so that would be.
Well, then that explains some of it. Then at least there's something else he's doing. So
yeah, he does play keyboards on a lot of the stuff. So
I take it back. Then maybe he didn't piss anybody off. He just decided to change direction. Maybe his fingers hurt from playing guitar, so keyboard was just easier on his digits. I don't know.
It does sound like it would be easier, but
yeah.
This is a no for me. This is. The only thing worse than this is just Pop, because Pop went way too far in the other direction of dance and whatever. This is just boring. I like this one like by far the least with the album that's, I guess, supposed to be rock. This is not rock. This is like pop-ish, adult contemporary, dentist office. Like it's like nothing here even really worth. I don't like or dislike any of it. It's just, it's hard to have any feeling about any of it. So I don't like this one at all. Like this is the one I would probably less go back to. Even though I think Pop is 13, this is 12. I probably would still listen to Pop before this, just because I'd feel like I was doing something wrong. Like I was being a rebel. Like, ooh, I'm listening to something really bad. Like this isn't even, it's just not even worth.
Doesn't even have the
minding.
Doesn't even get you into rebel territory.
It doesn't.
It's just like, man, you're just sad listening to that album again.
Yeah. So this is a D. This is number 12. By this time, I was like, it is a shame, because they got some really strong stuff early on, but they really just, I don't know if they're really trying their hardest. I guess I feel bad, but to me, it doesn't seem like they're being their authentic selves anymore. No. They're not doing it because they want to say something anymore. They're doing it now just maybe because they feel they have to. Maybe.
And even when they're saying stuff, they're rewriting songs based on the political climate. Like, what are you saying? Yeah. If you said something, then say it. Why do you change it? Because you're afraid that these people now this is a little bit more popular, that they might not like you, so you change everything that you already wrote?
Yeah.
Like, that is the most inauthentic thing you can do. I mean, you nailed that. Like, that's the most inauthentic thing you can do.
Totally agree.
You're not standing for anything if you're just going to change it based on, political climate of all things.
Have your own political views and have your own way you
People
feel
can respect that. Yeah, they might hate you, but at least there's a reaction, not like, let's just try to massage our way in here so nobody notices us. Well, what are you doing then?
Yep.
I don't know.
I hear you. All right, what you got? 12 to 1.
Sad ending, but it was mostly an enjoyable experience listening to these, but except for this last bunch of albums here, man. All right, so going from 13 to 1, I have at number 13, and we have a little surprise to pick things up after we're done with this, right before we're done with the podcast for next week. Number 13, I have Zooropa. Number 12, I have Pop. Number 11, 10, 9, 8 are all Well, 11, 10, and 9 are Songs of Experience, Sounds of Innocence, and No Line on the Horizon. They're all the same. I can put those in any order at any time. They're all the same to me. All That You Can't Leave Behind, I have at number 8. How to Dismantle Atomic Bomb at number 7. 6, I have October. 5, I have the debut album Boy. 4, I have War. 3, I have Unforgettable Fire. 2, I have Achtung Baby. And number 1, I have The Joshua Tree. What were your 13, Heard?
13, Pop. Number 12, Songs of Experience. Number 11, No Line on the Horizon. Number 10, Songs of Innocence. Number 9, Zooropa. Number 8, October. Number 7, Boy. Number 6, How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb. Number 5, All That You Can't Leave Behind. Number 4, Unforgettable Fire. Number 3, Achtung Baby. Number 2, War. Number 1, The Joshua Tree. There we have it.
All right. U2 is a wrap. Well, it could have been rap. It might have been better
Those
at
last
the end
two.
there. Yeah,
Man.
never know. All right.
Yeah.
So next week, we're doing the letter Y. So we came up with a few bands for Y when we brainstormed. We came up with Y&T, which is a band from the 70s and 80s. They're kind of influential, but nobody really listens to them. They have, let's see, U2 had 20 million monthly YouTube or monthly Spotify listeners. Y&T has 200,000. So they're not something anybody is really going to want to hear about, I don't think. I like them. I don't love them, but I do like them. They're influential for a lot of the 80s rock bands. Heard's never heard them. So, you know, they have a number of albums that we could do. I think they have 12 studio albums, so we could have done that. We also came up with Yes and Neil Young. Yes and Neil Young both have like 1,000 albums between them. So we would have to do like a 3-part series to do either of those groups. So we decided that we're either, for the letter Y, we're going to do one of two things. We're going to do year in review, or we're going to do your choice. Both of those begin with Y. And what we're going to do is we're going to flip a coin to determine which of those we're going to do. And then we're going to flip a coin to see which one of us chooses the band that we're going to do for your choice or the year that we're going to review the top 10 albums. So I have a 50-cent piece right here. We're going to say heads is year review, and we're going to say tails is your choice. And I want you to call it, Heard. Go for it.
All right, we're going to go heads.
And it is tails.
All right, we're going to do a band
So we're going to do a band.
then.
Okay,
Your choice,
so
but whose choice?
yeah, we're going to flip again right now to see whose choice it is. So once again, I will let you call it.
We'll go heads again.
Oh, heads again. Oh, and I dropped it. Oh, I dropped it. What could it be? What could it be on the floor? It's heads.
All right.
All right, so you get to choose what band it is that we haven't done already and isn't on our schedule for the next, I think we have it scheduled out for a year.
Yep.
Who do you want to do?
So, a little background of why I chose this one. I figured to myself, if I'm going to pick a band, I'm going to pick a band from a letter that there's a lot of stuff that we both like from that we may never, ever get to it.
Yep. I was going to do the same thing. I'll even tell you who mine was after you choose. But
all right. I wonder if it's the same, but
I doubt it. There's so many.
Yeah, there is so many. But my pick, and this is a band that I've loved for a long time, that I love pretty much everything that they've done.
Good.
Pretty much every album is good in my eyes, and I believe you feel the same.
Uh-oh.
My band, Machine Head.
Wow, that's close, man. Mine was from M2.
Okay.
Wow. Great. I'm looking forward to that.
I love Machine Head. And, with M, I know, like, Metallica we did. With, we're doing Mushroom Head later on.
And I think Megadeth. We're doing 2 M's again, and neither one of them are Machine Head. Exactly. So, yeah, who knows who'd get to them. And there's so many more that it'd be easy to do other M's. Mine was going to be Motley Crue. So
okay. Yeah, Yeah.
We both chose from the letter M, but that's one of the biggest categories we have. So yeah, we could do this for 10 years and maybe never get to either of these two bands. So
many good M bands, but
all right, Brian S. was
Brian,
just listening to Machine Head last week. So yeah, enjoy.
beautiful.
We'll
I
hopefully
know.
see him again next week and have
I
him
just-
join in with us.
Just really love Machine Head. I'm really looking forward to that. It's just one of those bands that, you know, you're not sure if everybody in the world's going to like them, but like everybody I know at least likes them. You know, they have, you know, they have different eras. They were in that new metal stuff, the rap metal, but I think it was still good. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, that's gonna be fun.
yeah, I'm pumped. I'm like pumped to get started. Every album, every one, but like one album is just phenomenal.
Yeah, this is gonna be fun. Actually, Brian, if you can be here next week, please rank Machine Head's albums for us too. We'd love to hear what your ranking is also.
Yep.
And John,
Absolutely.
if he's still around.
Yep.
I don't think John's as big a fan as Machine Head, but man, maybe he'll do it too. It'd be fun to have you guys join in too and see what your ranking is.
Yep.
Especially since you're just listening to them. All right. So next week, for the letter Y, we have your choice. Bob won the toss. Herd won the toss. And he chose Machine Head.
Machine freaking head. Machine
Yep.
freaking head.
Hell
Looking forward to it, partner. So we will be
Awesome.
doing Machine Head next week. So again, thank you everybody for listening. John, Brian, we appreciate you guys
so much, man. So
yep.
cool to have you guys here.
Thank you for tuning in. Maybe you guys could hit up Brian Hendrickson and maybe he could join us one time. Would sure be nice of him, Brian, calling you out. We put you on our podcast twice and you don't even show up. So
maybe once. He showed up twice, I think, in the chat.
All right.
All right.
Sorry, Hendrickson. Brian S is the one.
Not Brian S. Brian
S is good.
Brian H. Another BH, if you can believe that.
I know. But all right. Well, guys, thank you for listening. To you too. Thanks for hanging out. Please like our YouTube video if you're seeing this later on. Please subscribe, comment, you know, put your rankings, tell us where we're wrong, tell us where we're right.
Please.
Looking forward to hearing from everybody, you know, so please comment. But we will see you guys next week for Machine Head. So we will see you in the next one.
Rock on.
Looks like you've been missing a lot of work lately.
I wouldn't say I've been missing it, Bob.
What would you say you do here?
God damn it. Bob, we love playing here tonight. My brother's ready.
It helps if you think of it as a game, Bob. Every game has a winner and a loser.
You must possess strength to inflict pain, Bob.